A Mudlick Mail. We've got a lot of people signing up today for this webinar, so I've got you guys all in listen-only mode. We're going to kick this off right at 4 o'clock Eastern Time. We've got hundreds of people actually signed up for this, largest webinar we've had to date, so we're really excited to get this thing started. So hang in there, guys. Hopefully you all can see my screen, how to make big profits on little tickets. Greg will be with us here in a few moments, and we'll get this thing started. So hang in there with me, and we look forward to starting here in just a few minutes. Thanks again. All right, guys, this is again Tim Ross, President of Mudlick Mail. You guys are on the webinar for how to make big profits on little tickets. I have Greg Sands here with me. We're going to get started here in about 6 minutes, so hang in there, guys. We have lots of people that are signing up for this, and we want to give them a chance to get on, but we'll start at 4 o'clock, right on the nose. So a couple more minutes here, guys. We'll get started. Everybody is in listen-only mode. I'm going to try just to test out some things here just to make sure everybody can see my screen and all, and also hear me. So let's see here. Let me get onto Brent Headley. Can you hear me, Brent? Brett? Brett? All right, let me see here. Let me try a couple more here. Hey, Brian Gillis, can you hear me? Brian Gillis, okay. I'll tell you what, if you guys are out there, there's a bunch of you. I'm going to call on a couple of you guys. I just want to make sure we're not having any audio problems. We have a lot of folks signed up, and I just want to make sure everybody can hear. Okay, it looks like everybody can hear and everybody can see. So hang in there, guys. It's 3:55. We're going to get this thing started here in about 5 minutes. Again, we have several hundred people jumping on this webinar. We're really excited to share some great information with you guys. So hang in there with me just a couple more minutes, and we'll get this program started. Thanks so much. Hold on. Hello again, this is Tim Ross, President of Mudlick Mail. Just want to kind of keep everybody up to date. We got about 3 or 4 minutes here before we're going to get started. Again, we have a lot of people logging in, so I want to give them a chance to get started. Greg will be with us here in just a couple of minutes. But you're attending How to Make Big Profits on Little Tickets by Mudlick Mail. I'm going to have everybody on mute so that you're not going to be able to hear everybody. It's going to keep the background noise out. But if you have any questions as we go through there, we're going to try to answer some of the questions as we move along through the event. But if for some reason we can't get to them, if you guys could raise your hand on the webinar, and we'll go ahead and try to listen to that question and answer it, okay? So hang in there just a couple more minutes, and we'll get you guys started. Thanks so much. All right, everybody, this is Tim Ross again, President of Mudlick Mail. We're glad that you guys were able to participate. We're going to get started here in just another minute. Again, we have lots of people signing on. We really appreciate everybody coming to listen to this webinar. We're going to bring Greg Sands in here in just a minute. Just real quick for the rules and how we're going to handle this, guys, is we're going to run about 45 minutes on the webinar. And then at the end of the webinar, I am going to open it up for some questions. Now, due to the significant amount of customers that are on this call, what you'll have to do on your webinar is simply raise your hand, and I will go through and try to get with you to get your answer. We'll try to answer the questions as we move through the material, but a lot of times we end up getting a lot more questions than what we can handle, and we want to try to be very responsive of your time. And so we'll try to keep the webinar to about 45 minutes. We'll open it up again at the end for a few questions. We're going to go ahead and get started here in just a minute. Again, you're here with Mudlick Mail. We are providing a webinar for how to make big profits on little tickets. I'm going to bring in my partner and CEO of Mudlick Mail, Greg Sands. Greg, for those of you who don't know, owns and operates stores in 6 states. His stores are both European and domestic. He currently has 6 stores under construction in 3 different states, so busy, busy, busy. Over the lifetime, if those of you haven't met Greg, he started out in the burger business at TGI Fridays and then started to open up a few stores, and it turned into be the largest Goodyear dealer in the state of Texas. Went into semi-retirement for a short time and then got back in the game. Greg's parent company, SR Sanco, currently will exceed revenues of $50 million this year, and his stores under his direction have sold over, I think we'll clear $1 billion, Greg, this year in all store sales. So, Greg, welcome to the webinar.
Thanks. I'm excited to be here. This is probably the most important topic. I mean, everyone's important. You know, how you hire a technician to how do you make money. But this one is I'm really excited about because it really gets to the heart of a lot of issues that are out there. There's a lot of small tickets out there that people are taking for granted. So I'm excited. I've also have never done this webinar the way it is today. So if I stumble around a little bit, at least you're getting the latest information. Just so you guys know, the information that you're getting today is mostly from my stores and my experience. I am in 6 states, but I also reached out to several what I would call very sharp, high-end shops to see if what I'm experiencing and how I handle these tickets is consistent with what's out there with some shop owners that I know have been around a long time that I trust and that do significant volume. So if you don't agree with everything in this webinar, then you're probably in the right place. If you just agreed straight up on everything, you probably wouldn't need to be on here. I would also tell you that you know, if our process of how you handle tickets, little tickets, are if this interests you and you really like it, I would tell you that this is a recorded webinar, and you can get with the Mudlick Mail team on how you can play this and use it as a training webinar for your own staff. Sometimes it's easier to make changes if they hear it from somebody else than if they hear it from the owner. So I'm ready to get going if you are.
All right. Well, guys, the reason why we brought this webinar together today for you is that a lot of our customers who do use direct mail or any kind of marketing, you drive in customers of all types and sizes. And so for us, the success really is you guys being able to understand how consumers buy, and then you guys be able to capitalize on that and develop a more profitable store. So we're going to get kicked off real quick just one last time, because I know we had a lot of people join in just a few minutes ago. We're going to go through the material. If you have questions, you can simply click the hands up button, and I will do my best to try to intertwine these questions during the webinar. If for some reason that we don't get to you, please know that I still have your questions. We're going to try to have about a 40-minute webinar, and then we're going to leave a few minutes open for a Q&A at the end of the day. If we don't get to you guys, I will give you an email address and a way to access this information or access us to ask additional questions. So without further ado, we're going to go ahead and get this kicked off. How to make big profits on little tickets, Greg. So let's go on to our first slide. I know you talk a lot about the way business goes. Talk a little bit about the 80-20 rule that you share a lot with us.
Well, and this is important because a lot of information can be misunderstood out there. If you guys look in your database and you look at any given month, you should notice that anywhere from 15 to 25% of your customers for that month make up 80 to 85% of your sales. This isn't an exact science, but I will tell you across the board. I'm closer to probably that 15% mark. If you take shops that don't do emissions tests, but they do a great job putting in tickets, they're closer to the 20–25%. The reason why this is important is because if you see that you're running above that well 30%, 40% of my customers made up my sales last month, that's a pretty good sign that you're in a lot of trouble, that you're not building new clientele, and that your staff may be turning away small tickets. And small tickets, as we all know, we've had more of them in the last 5 years than probably the previous 15 years as a total. So the 80-20 rule is a gauge to let you go back and look. And I think the most important thing you're not going to hear out there, but my belief is you don't try to cull out some of the 80%, the small tickets, to make a higher percentage. What you want to do is grow your pie, the overall size of your company, both small tickets and your big tickets at the same time. So in other words, we want to grow the same mix, because the 20% rule, the thing that I think folks don't realize is when we say 20% of your 80% of your sales comes from 20% of your customers, well, it's a new set of customers every month. Not every customer is not only 20%. It's 20% this month, a different set of customers the next month, a different set of customers. And how you treat people and how you handle them on small tickets are really your future big tickets. That's why we have to grow the pie so that we can grow the future. And the only way you're going to be able to get your sales up is to get more of the 80%. You got to have, so you're growing the bigger pie. The bigger the pie is, the bigger the future sales are, because now you're playing with a bigger number.
Okay, and I know we talk a lot about at Mudlick Mail, increasing your market share. And I will tell you guys, we're moving into the season now where it traditionally starts to pick up. So the ability to grow your pie, to grow your customer base, now's the time that you can grow by advertising to bring in some more customers. Greg, let's talk a little bit about the myth. You talk a lot of times about the get rid of lower tickets. You started to touch on it a little bit. Go into a little more detail about how this is critical.
Well, and so that everyone knows that the whole point of covering this first and getting into how we handle small tickets is half the battle of turning small tickets into bigger tickets is just getting over the stigma that, oh, that's a bad customer, that's a bottom feeder or whatever. So, the goal, and this all started, this whole myth, which is, gosh, look at, I don't want to mention training companies, but people out there will look at your database and say, well, my God, you got 80% of these customers are just bottom feeders or oil changes, or you need to just get rid of those customers and focus on your 20% and make that bigger. The problem with that philosophy is that those oil changes and those flat tires and things, those are your future big tickets. But if you turn them away, then you have no future. Now you're dealing off of a smaller base every time. So it's poor advice, and I think it's, make sure when you're talking to people out there that they're shop owners and they're current shop owners, because as we all know that's been in the shop business for a long time, we sure weren't talking about small tickets 15 years ago. This has really been, and it's going to accelerate over the years as smaller maintenance items come up. I mean, we didn't talk about flushes 20 years ago. Mm-hmm. Today, that's a big part of our business. So the transition is getting rid of the myth that, hey, let's cull out these bottom feeders that, oh, we're losing money on, those oil changes are hard to do, or emissions. That's really just telling shop owners what they want to hear. And my goal has always been, since no one's paying to be on here, I can just tell you the truth. And the truth is that if you want a future in auto repair, you got to become a master at these small tickets, because these small tickets today will turn into large tickets tomorrow.
Okay. And I know I say a lot of people struggle with car count, guys, and you'll find out very quickly how you can quickly turn that around by dealing with these little tickets. Greg, here's some examples of the little tickets you want to kind of talk a little bit about? These are some basic things, would you say, come into the shop?
They are, and these are things that we used to turn away years ago because there was a Jiffy Lube down the road, and today Jiffy Lube does some maintenance and repairs, so we would never do that. The key to this, and I will tell you, my view on small tickets is, I stole the concept from a doctor's office. If you go to a doctor's office with a cold, which to them is not, that's a small ticket.
Right.
They're not going to prescribe something to you on the phone. They're going to have you come in. They're not going to not fill out information on you. They're going to put you in the system. And then they're going to weigh you. They're going to do a check blood pressure, and they're going to check your temperature. Then they're going to look at you and say you have a cold. Well, we have to do the same thing. And so anytime you get an oil change or windshield wipers, emissions, any of these things, the standard thing or the standard procedure should be that we offer a visual inspection. So if somebody has a flat tire and you go, well, we'll definitely get right on that. We'll check out the tire, but we'll also check out the rest of the vehicle. Once we figure out the tire, it needs a patch or it needs a new tire, well, there may be another nail in another tire. There may be a belt about to break. So you always want the customer to know that this is just a standard procedure and it's also free. So if you think about that, and from a manager's perspective or a technician's perspective, they're going, oh, hold on a second. I don't want to get into that because that's, now I've taken an oil change and I've made it a bigger pain than it already is. But in fact, these little tickets, by offering a standard inspection, and you jump right on it, which we're going to get into, that'll increase your sales, giving yourself an opportunity to find the belts or find a flush or find something on a vehicle is just no different than a doctor's office going through their standard procedure.
Okay. And I know, one of the time you get a lot of these little tickets in, and there's this perception that they're bottom feeders, that you're bringing in just the wrong type. They can't buy anything. These guys are broke. There's a big myth as well, would you say, from how people perceive customers as they walk in the door. Talk a little bit about understanding that, because all this kind of builds into how you can't build into bigger tickets until you understand how you're creating the little ones. So talk a little about this perception here.
Well, and some of this is perception, some of it is fact, in that if you take a customer that comes in, there's really two types of customers, and it's not 100% in each category. There's some spillover, but if you took what we call a non-coupon customer, a non-coupon customer is always everybody's favorite. They're loyal. They're I guess an easy way to describe a non-coupon customer is their time is worth more than their money. And this is really, really important that you guys catch this difference. So non-coupon shopper, time is worth more than their money. A coupon shopper, their money is worth more than their time. So this is where the front counter owners, managers, I've made the same mistake, and I can tell you this will change your business. Now if I tell you, let me give you a description of a non-coupon shopper. Somebody, now they may bring a coupon in once. They may bring, just because they don't know you, they're looking for they have a map or a phone number and they bring it with it. Once they become a customer, they're not dragging in a coupon every month.
Right.
But they're really our ideal customer. But then when you start to go, well, what is a customer that their time is worth more than their money? Well, my description of them would be somebody who is impatient. They can be rude. They can be, they might be texting or emailing or on a call while you're trying to get information from them. Mm-hmm. They're one that will give you the impression that all I want is an oil change or all I need is my tire fix. That is the holy grail, and that's where the mistake comes out. Now take the opposite of that. A coupon shopper is looking for the most value that they can get for their money, not time. So yeah, they want the inspection. They're not going to buy anything. They want to look at. They don't care if it takes 3 hours. If they're saving $5 on an oil change, man, they'll stay there all day and mount your calendar and ask you all kinds of questions. And they're pleasant. So I'm not saying that in a mean way. They're pleasant people. And so then you go back and go, well, how the hell do I, avoid as many of these coupon shoppers, hardcore coupon shoppers, and get more non-coupon shoppers? And I promise I don't want to sound like an infomercial for Mudlick Mail, and everybody on here is pretty much a customer, so I don't need to talk you guys into Mudlick Mail. But what I will tell you is that this whole coupon shopper has started when our business, when the Yellow Page business really went out. That's really what we did 20 years ago. We set up Yellow Pages, and everybody fought over the best Yellow Page ad. And your Yellow Page ad didn't have a coupon on it, or most of them didn't. They just called. Well, then when that went away, a lot of people went to marriage mail. I went to direct mail. Marriage mail is cheaper, and marriage mail is like a money mailer of molasses where the stuff is buried into a bunch of other coupons. Mm-hmm. Well, it works. It's a good product for coupon shoppers. But somebody that's not looking for a value, they're never going to dig through there to find it. So you're just going to get the coupon shoppers, and if you're going to use that type of product, you just have the cheapest oil change you can have, and you're going to get the lion's share of those customers. I've done it. I've tested that. I will tell you that, those are the customers that will leave you bad reviews, will want the world, and they can't spend money. And even if they want to, they don't have the money. Where the non-coupon shoppers, the coupon shoppers are still going to see a direct mail piece. But you get the non-coupon shoppers, the people like us, the people that are on this phone that probably don't use coupons, they're at least going to see your ad. And if they need an oil change, they might go, hey, yeah, you know what, I'm going to do that. But now let's go back to why we think and why we treat oil changes and things like bottom feeders. Well, if I call off of an ad and I'm a non-coupon shopper, my first answer is going to be, hey, how long will it be for an oil change? Right? Right. Now, if I'm a coupon shopper, I'm going to say, how much? I'm going to be less concerned. Is that really what I'm going to get? Is it fit my car? Do I get to use the $15 oil change? Is that going to work for me? They don't really ask you, how long? Right. When can they get it? They're looking at more price, and they'll suffer through. But when you're a manager on the phone, when somebody says, how long for an oil change? It's real easy to say, well, we can get you in tomorrow, or we can get you in next week, or we can get you in Friday or Saturday or whatever. The problem with that strategy is that if you understand that that's the customer you really want, you've got to answer the phone with, well, we can get you in right now. And the reason why you want to say that is now a good time to bring in your vehicle is with non-coupon shoppers now usually isn't the right time, but they want to hear that. So they may go, well, no, I can bring it in at 3 o'clock. Well, no, I can bring it at 1 o'clock. A few of them will say, yes, I'll come in right now. So the belief that, well, if we say yes to everybody, then we're just going to get inundated with oil change and won't be able to take care of them. That's really not the way it works. It's really, they call, they say, hey, how long for an oil change? Well, we can get you right in. Oh, well, I can't come right now. I can come at 1. So just to be clear, we always want to say yes. And why do we want to do that? Because we have learned, what about the non-coupon shopper? We've learned that time is worth more than their money. So if you want the best customers, speed is everything.
Well, we're going to get into more detail. And guys, what we're trying to do is set the tone here for you guys, because the gotta-haves, which Greg's going to talk about in a few minutes, it's critical that you have the right kind of customers coming through the door so that you can convert the gotta-haves. You can convert that 80%ers into your 20% to increase your pie. It's very hard to increase your customer base of good customers if you're not drawing in the right kind of customer. And so that's why we have to set the tone on the front end on the types of customers you should have. We're going to talk a little bit now, guys, about the strategy, where you have, how do I approach these little tickets? What drives the customer to make some decisions? And so understanding that will help you understand how you can convert these got-to-have customers into better opportunities.
Yeah, and this was a really, it's something we lived by for years, but I was very excited to hear other good, solid shop owners out there doing really high car count with really the same strategy. So, part of the sale, and I've heard this from Mike Daniels, he has 13 stores in Texas, and he's very much on track with this, which is, the sale is made really in just the first few minutes. It's literally the first few minutes. So now look at this slide and you go, well, okay, everything really revolves around speed, and remember that we want the non-coupon shoppers because we know that they're going to spend more money and that they're going to come back and they're going to be loyal. So we know that half the battle's that. The other half now is, okay, now what do we look like? Okay, if you, and you guys think about this yourself. If you drive to a restaurant and you see a restaurant's completely blown out and you're just going there for lunch, you tend to go, you know what, I think I'll go somewhere else. I don't have 45 minutes to wait. But if you see a few open parking places, you go, oh, well, yeah, they've got a few. You don't have to have it doesn't have to be wide open where they don't look open. But so I think a misconception out there, and I just went through this a few weeks ago. There's a shop owner that was getting up in age and said, hey, Greg, I'm considering selling. Are you interested in my shop? Well, I've been by his shop, and he is blown out. He's got cars everywhere. And then when I asked him, what kind of sales are you doing a month, he's doing like $50,000 a month. Well, I was shocked because I went, well, how is that possible? Well, when you started to add up all the dead cars around his shop, he looked like he was blown out. I would never go there because he was too busy. But he thought that was actually helping him, that by looking busy made him look like he's the place to go get car repair. That actually backfires. It works to some people that don't care about their time. So remember who when you have all those dead cars around your shop and you make yourself look busy, who are you attracting? The coupon shopper. When you have a few open spots, you're now attracting the non-coupon shopper. So one of the tricks to sales is leaving 2 or 3 open spots at the front door at all times. If you don't have room in the back to park cars, park them on the side of the street or somewhere, but don't let your front area get full of cars. We see that in the afternoons at our stores. That's one of the big things I push on Saturdays. We do a lot of volume on Saturdays. And so one of the things that's always on my mind is, hey, how many open spots do you have at the front? Because you'll notice your sales will start to die down in the afternoon. In fact, they should get busier if you leave your spaces open because everybody in town does that. They let the cars build up and then they stop taking in new customers. I want to take in new customers all day. So you set your store up for speed. You make sure there's open spots. Get rid of all the dead cars that are laying around out there. And then we're going to go into the trick of speed with small tickets. But just always remember time is worth more than money. So with that, you always have to have the appearance that you're stealthy, that you're ready to jump on it.
Good, and I tell you, and we mentioned earlier, when you bring in a higher caliber customer, when you go through the inspection process, these guys are more inclined to purchase more items from you. So I think that's one of the more critical parts. Obviously, you guys should understand what the maintenance schedules are, but once you have an understanding of the type of customers you are, then you can start going into the detail of, what is a gotta-have. Let's start identifying, Greg, specifically what you consider kind of a gotta-have. So customers come in, it's a customer that is that right higher income customer, time is important to them, not money, and so now we've got them in the shop. What's next?
Well, and let's back up for a second. This is where you make money on small tickets right here. When we started working with oil changes and emissions tests, things like that, flat tires, There's several mistakes that we had there. One of them is we have an inspection process. So we want to do the inspection with the oil change. Well, it took us so long to do the inspection process that the customer was mad by the time we got through the process, priced it out, and the technicians are mad because they just went through this whole inspection process only to have the manager not even pitch it a lot of times, try to sell it, or they try to sell it and the customer would say, every time I come in here, you guys try to sell me $1,000. So it's a very negative environment when you try to do it that way. So what we created was, and there's different versions of this, but this is our version of, we call it a gotta have. And the gotta have is really, it's a way to, I guess, test and see if a customer is a buying customer without looking at them and saying, oh, that customer's not going to buy. So what we do is we know that time is worth more than money, and a good customer is going to find value in that. So if a customer comes in and say they've got an oil change, if they come in with whether they come in and ask for an oil change or they're bringing a direct mail piece, we always tell them, oh, we have a great special on the oil change. The first thing that we try to sell them on is a 5-pack. 5-packs, when you talk about making money on little tickets, I just want you to put this in perspective. We will sell 5 oil changes for $79.95. You're only doing 1 oil change today. So you have the cost of 1 oil change, and if you need a copy of the 5-packs, just contact Mudlick Mail. You can get a copy of ours. We can design it for you. But so there's a couple of reasons why I like the 5-pack. We sell synthetic 5-packs, high mileage, and then regular 5-packs for just regular miles cars. So that allowed me, one, to get about an 80% gross profit right off the bat, and two, because cars go longer now, 5,000, 7,500 miles on an oil change, I've now got this customer locked in to come to just me for the next 3 to 5 years, depending on how many miles they put on their car. So a 5-pack's a quick way to instantly say, well, if you'd like to lock in that price, and the good thing about the 5-pack is it also comes with a tire rotation and a free safety inspection every time you come in. So we sell a lot of those 5-packs, and it's a lot of profitability. But then when the customer, usually they'll say yes, or they have one. We sell a lot of them. When they're in the waiting room, we know that we have 10 minutes. And we have timed this over and over again, not just in our shops. Several shop owners that's on this call today have done this, where if you time it and go, let's see what happens. If we can get back to that customer in 10 minutes on an item, we stand a much better chance of selling something on the item. So think about a customer. An oil change is a good example. When they're driving to your shop, they're budgeting 1 hour of their life basically to get in there and get an oil change. They're hoping it's 20 minutes, but they're thinking, you know what, maybe an hour I'll be in and out of that place. So when they come in, does the 5-pack cost you any time? No, it's an easy upsell. So the second thing is, now I'm going to go to my technician staff and say, look, I want you to look for one item that the car needs. A safety item is preferable. If there's a safety item, stop what you're doing and come get me. If it's not a safety item, then get me a maintenance item. So as an example, let's say that the technician checks out the car. They should be pulling the car around. Remember, speed is where you make your money. So while the customer is filling out this information or going over it with you, we get somebody up front to pull the car around. This is flat tire, anything, any small ticket. And every ticket goes in the computer, every single ticket. We'll get into this in a minute. So you pull the car around. When they find one item, they come get the manager. And they say, hey, Mr. Manager, let me show you. I just opened the hood and I noticed that the drive belt is completely cracked and frayed, and that's a safety issue. That can cause them to break down and be on the side of the road. You stop right there and you go get the customer. All of this has to happen within 10 minutes, just one item. So we get the customer and we show the customer hey, Miss Johnson, we just started the inspection, and wow, we noticed that this drive belt is cracked and frayed. It looks like it's the original belt. Mm-hmm. So that definitely needs your immediate attention. Well, they'll ask one or two questions, or they'll make two comments, either how much is it, or they'll say, I'm not interested in doing that. If they say how much is, which most of the time they will ask how much is it, and you say, oh, well, I haven't even priced it out. I just noticed it and I wanted to bring it to your attention, but I will work on an estimate right now. Would you like a ride home while I'm doing that? Chances are they're going to say yes, but if they don't, they go in the waiting room. What did we do? We just bought time. So see, we took a customer, and see, a good customer will walk in saying, I only want an oil change. But remember, they're a non-coupon shopper. So if they say they only want an oil change and you show them a safety item that they need, the one thing they hate worse than it taking a while is having to come back. So if you can show them that item, now you've just taken a customer who went, oh, I got to get this done. Now all they're going to worry about is, can you get it done today? Now that doesn't stop right there. Once you price out the belt or whatever it is you find, then you tell them, listen, while the part's on the way, I'm going to go ahead and do the rest of the inspection. That's a very easy sell. So you never, or you, I wouldn't prefer that you hit them with $800 or $1,200 on the front side and do all that work and slow yourself down. I would first test the water with one major item, a safety item or a maintenance item, safety being first.
Now, if people come in, and we've got a couple of questions, I'll get to those in a minute, guys. So obviously, someone comes in on an oil change, you walk them, that's the easiest little ticket, right? You go through the inspection process, you go through the items. What if they come in for other things, like, they want something smaller like a emissions test or, window fluid or tire plugs? How does that process to try to take them into a situation where you can move that to a bigger ticket? Is it different?
Well, it's not, and it's in fact the key where the mistake is made on these small tickets is the manager or the technician, whoever, doesn't want to put it into their system. Mm-hmm. So when a customer says, hey, can you come out and look at my car real quick? I don't want you to just run out there and look at the car. I would rather say, well, tell me what's going on with your vehicle. Oh, it's making a grinding noise. Oh, well, we're going to need to get that checked out by our AC certified trained technician. Let me go ahead and get some information from you. See, they're not committed to you if you don't put in a ticket. Unfortunately, our industry has brainwashed owners into believing that ticket average is where it's at. So because of that, managers want their ticket averages to be high so they don't put in all the tickets. So you can't, it's very hard to upsell a small ticket when you're treating it as if it's no big deal. So the first thing we want to do is take in the information. If they're low on windshield wiper fluid,
squeaky door,
man, we'll take care of that. But we'll also do just a real quick visual inspection while you're here just to make sure that there's no other issues. If you've got that, if you're low on windshield wiper fluid, you may need something else, but we'll give you a quick visual inspection. It's no charge to you. We'll get you right in, and the key to that is how fast we pull the car around.
Well, I know you've taught your guys. I know when I was behind the counter, a key question you always have them ask is there anything else on the car you want us to take a look at since we got it back here? Is that an important question for every single person who comes through the door?
Usually on that is when they have already a broke item.
Okay.
When they say something like, squeaky doors or they want to flush, it's better to say, we don't ask them, we tell them. Well, we'll do a standard visual inspection and just make sure there's no other concerns while it's here. I'll take care of that washer fluid at no charge. Let me go ahead and get some information. Because of that, you've taken somebody who's going, God, that's awesome. It's not going to cost me anything for that annoying little deal. Or if it's a flat tire, oh, I'll check it out for free, but there may be other nails in other tires. There may be other issues. So we want to make sure that, we don't just run out there, and I've seen it in my own shops where a guy will go out there, not recently because we don't plug tires, but I've seen people plug tires on the drive. One, I mean, I could go into a whole sales pitch on not plugging tires, but also you created no value for your shop and you created no value to the customer. We should have checked out all the tires to make sure there wasn't any other nails in the tires. We should have offered to patch it. You know, make sure that the tire is not one that they might not want to replace.
Right.
You know, if it's me, if you said, well, your tires are 80% worn, well, and I've got this nail in there, I might say, you know what, if you can give me a ride home, you just put some new tires on it for me.
Well, I've heard you say walk a customer around the bases. I think the tire one is a great example where you go from a plug to a patch, from a patch to a rotation.
And then a balance. You're going to balance one tire. I'll give you a deal on the other three. You can probably get an alignment. Now you get into brakes. Most people on this call, once they get started, they understand how to walk around the bases. It's how to first hit the ball.
Got it.
So a lot of this conversation was, here's how you hit the ball. Don't turn away the customer. The one that's difficult is the one you want to jump all over. And listen to cues. And when somebody says, how long for an oil change, that's a buyer. It's not the opposite. So then when you get into the small tickets, it's a matter of always, always, always. I was in fact, you were with me. I was in Las Vegas with a group of shop owners, and I asked the shop owners, how many of you don't really do the oil change? Remember that?
Yeah.
And people looked at me, they got angry at me and went, what are you talking about? We do an oil change every single time. Like, you're kidding me. And they said, no. And I said, well, then why do you do an oil change every time? Well, because that's an integrity issue. I said, okay, I agree with that. How many of you did the oil change, but you didn't do the inspection that was on your direct mail piece or was on your coupon? Well, crickets. Mm-hmm. Oh, so the thing that actually will make a shop money, we didn't do, but we did the one item that we lose money on, which is the oil change. How ass backwards is that?
Right.
I hope this isn't recorded.
Yeah. Well, I know, and I hear you say that all the time, and I think bringing in quality people gives you that opportunity to do better. I've got a quick question. Now, for those of you guys that are on here, we've got a bunch. If you have a question, if you could type it in and then shoot it over to me, and I'll try to get to some of these questions. There's just way too many folks on here to actually open up the line to talk one-on-one. But going back, Greg, one of the questions was on your 5-pack oil changes, are they good for different cars or just the same owner, or what's the rules on that?
Well, no, we let them, I mean, if it's an import car, that's a little different, but they can use it on all their cars, their family cars. And then it's up to 5 quarts, so if there's a bigger vehicle, they have to pay more for the oil. But for the most part, we want them to bring in all of their cars. So we always use that as a selling point. That's a great question.
Yeah, I tell you, those guys that aren't doing multiple oil change sales, like a 5-pack or something similar, that's a great way to generate a bunch of little tickets all the time because those guys are coming in.
Well, but just remember, a little ticket, the only difference that I've seen, and I've done a lot of automotive repairs, and you know, when you go around, you hear people say, yeah, man, we used to just have all broke cars. Well, I remember those days, and they're not coming back. And the guys out there saying we've always done it this way are the ones that are going out of business. The way you did it 15 years ago is not the way you do it today. There's some great training out there right now, but unfortunately the great training is on how to handle broke cars. There's not a lot of good training out there. In fact, most of the training discourages handling oil changes and small tickets. But it just defies logic when you think, well, why would I discourage an oil change when if they go somewhere else and get an oil change, they're not going to come back to me. It doesn't make sense because wherever they go is going to do the brake job. So the only difference that I've seen from 20 years ago to today is that we have one more step to make. We used to get broke cars on the front side. Now what we see is we'll get an oil change or somebody will have a flat tire, a small item. We can upsell 40% of those, and that's an important number for you guys to write down because are you going to sell 10 out of 10 small little tickets into something? No, you're going to sell 4 out of 10 if you can get back to the customer on a gotta have in 10 minutes. If you don't, the number's going to drop way down. So as an owner, one of the things I would tell you if you're not running your front counter is take a stopwatch and time. If you can sit outside your shop or just hang out for the day and we see somebody walk in, set a stopwatch. You'll be surprised how fast 10 minutes will go by. But this is a great list that we put together on kind of the top 10 list of gotta-haves. And the great thing is technicians and industry folks up front, they just about know on every car, hey, check the CV axle boots or check the crack belts. They almost know on every car about what the hot button is. So the key is you don't want to walk in selling an air filter as your gotta-have unless that's the only thing the car needs. You never take an air filter in by itself unless that's the only thing a car needs. Now let's say a car needs a brake flush and an air filter. I'll take both of those in to the customer or talk to the customer about both of them. So if the customer says, oh, I don't want to do the brake flush right now, well, then I'll just go ahead and take care of this air filter for you. The key is not to leave for just an oil change unless the car doesn't need anything.
Well, I know, and so to kind of summarize some of this, guys, so we're talking about how do we identify our top 20%, what do they look like, how do we bring them into our store, what are some critical skills that we need to have on the front counter to say yes to these customers, to get them in the door. Once they're in the door, the fact that speed impacts our ability to sell, so we've got a better customer coming in. So the secret sauce, Greg, and I know I've heard you talk about this a lot, is, how do we get an initial buying habit? How do we qualify a customer? And so this lists kind of quick ways for you to qualify a customer to buy.
Yes, and so that's a great way to say it, is that we want to get a quick qualification on this customer without our technician. And see, let me tell you, the technicians are much more likely to want to jump up and handle an oil change if they know that there's a high likelihood that you're going to be able to sell something on it. Well, because they're not having to write out a book on the front side. Now, we still do the inspection, but we know that if this customer says, no, I'm not doing it, I'm going to document the things that the car needs, but I'm not going to price it all out. I'm not going to go through that disaster when they are not going to spend any money with me. But a customer that says, oh, how much is that? See, and it doesn't stop with that gotta-have. This is another mistake, and we've made this mistake at our stores. We got really good at getting the gotta-haves. Man, we get the belt, we get something, and then we didn't go back and get everything else the car needed. Once you get a gotta-have, now you've got a customer that is willing to fix their car. Well, you want to do the rest of the inspection. The technician doesn't mind because that's going to be a sell. You prioritize the things that the car needs, and then you go to the customer and because a customer that's a non-coupon shopper, they don't want to come back. So that's your opportunity to go, hey, Ms. Johnson, Tim, my SE certified trained technician, I fully inspected the rest of your vehicle, and this is what we found. And so you go through the sales process on the rest of the vehicle.
Very good. And I had some couple of questions here while we're at it here. We're going to talk a little bit about how do we sell these things on the next screen. But one of the ideas is you have an example verbiage for various scenarios for new folks each day. Like, these would be very helpful. So we do have some scripts. I will tell you guys on the Learning Center, there's going to be, this presentation will be there, but there are some great other presentations, webinars, some scripts that Greg has created that are on the Mudlick Mail website that we'll talk a little bit about at the end of the show. So this will be recorded. I know there were some questions about that. Some of you guys are coming in late. Absolutely going to be recorded and available to you guys. But yeah, some of the verbiage that Greg's talking about for these different scenarios, you'll see some scripts on how we sell and walk them through the process. So let's get into the selling side, Greg. We started to talk a little bit about this. Start to identify that sales approach. So the gotta-have is I've got a good customer in, spendable income. I've brought the right kind of customer to my door. I've said yes, speed of service. Now I've looked at those top 10. I'm trying to find one item. Let's take it from there. And how does that scenario walk from there?
Well, the first thing you do is that once you find that safety item or maintenance item, you stop and you come get the customer. When the customer comes out to the car, you show them the item. You definitely want to do a show and sell unless they went home, but most of the time they're going to be waiting because they're in a hurry. Once you show them the item, you wait for them to say, how much is that? And when they say, how much is it, you tell them, oh, I haven't even priced it out yet. The reason why that's important is you don't want to, you don't want to take the time to write up an estimate. And some people will disagree with me, but unfortunately it just takes too long. And if you have managers who are guessing, you're probably losing money. So if a customer says, well, how much is that? Oh, well, we haven't even priced it out yet. That diffuses the customer, the tension in the room, because the customer's going, oh, okay, he's not just trying to sell me. He's making me aware of it, and now I'm asking him how much it is. So the perception is much different. It takes, if a customer says, oh, you know what, my husband's going to do that. You know, it diffuses. You don't have to hard sell them or hit them with an estimate where they go, every time I come in here, you guys hit me with a $800 estimate. You have that conflict, because we know if we don't get them today, as long as we provide them speed, if we're quick, if we show them, we get it done in time, they have no reason not to come back to me. But remember, we hit them in two areas. The first thing that we did so that we get them as a repeat customer is we offered them a 5-pack. And so we offered them a 5-pack. If the customer doesn't want the 5-pack, a lot of times you hand them the card. If they say, well, I'm not sure I want it, well, you know what, you just hang on to that, and I'll get back with you. A lot of times, if you let them hang on to it and go in the waiting room, by the time you finish the oil change, provided that you deliver quick service, they're going to say, yeah, you know what, I will go ahead and do this. It's good for all your cars, ma'am, all your vehicles. It is a great value for the customer, and it is a great value for our shops.
Well, how important is the show and sell? Because I know you spend a lot of time with your guys on the show and sell. I know you touched on it a little bit. Give us a little more detail about how that helps kind of move the sale along.
Well, without showing the customer, you're having to explain a visual, which is very hard to do. And, of course, it can backfire with you as well. If you have a filthy shop, you know, a show and sell can actually turn into a real negative. If they come back in your shop and it's just disgusting, or there's loud music playing, or there's, you know, it can be a negative. But if you understand that your shop is a great selling point, when you can get a customer's car, I always walk out with a customer and I always say the same thing. I bet you haven't ever got to look under your car before, you know, and which is kind of a weird thing to say. But it just relaxes them, and yeah, I haven't. Well, you can kind of walk them around their vehicle as well if they're open to that. Most customers are in a hurry. When they walk out to the shop, if you show them one item, they're more likely to buy. If you show them 6 items, then you're going to get the words, well, you know what, I'm going to sell that car. And so finding the one item, now if there's 2 major items that you see, obviously you got to show them that. But if you find one major item, you want to stop there and go with that. And you want to, and we always take them out to the car. So the show and sell is one of the most important parts. It's much harder to sell in a waiting room or somebody standing out there when you can take them out to their car and they can actually see oil leaking or some kind of fluid leaking or a belt that's cracked. That's what's selling the customer, not you. You're just educating the customer.
Let's take this time now, Greg, to summarize real quick. We covered a lot of stuff, guys. Again, a lot of critical information. A lot of this stuff, as you guys have been with us, especially some of our long-term customers, a lot of repetition, but you can see how critical it is. You know, if you want to sell consistently and have higher profits, going after the right customer and then having a process is important. Greg, give us a quick summary real quick of the program. And then, guys, after Greg finishes, if you have questions, now is the time for you to type those questions in, and we will try to cover them as best we can. We do have a lot of folks signed up, but please, Greg, go ahead and get started. Let's go ahead and talk a little bit about kind of summarize the process for us.
Yeah, and if you don't mind, I want to jump to the bottom one there because I wrote bonus plan, and you know this was one of my secrets to success. It also was really why I was able to grow as fast as I did. You know, I learned early on that I wasn't buying in that the most important thing in a shop is ticket average because it's so easily manipulated. If I tell somebody, if you go around the room, and we're the only industry like this that I know of, you go around the room, you might ask somebody, hey, what's your ticket average? somebody might say $400, somebody will say $300. I will tell you the top shops in America are between $200 and $300. So when you hear, and now import's a different deal. That can be $700, $800 up to $1,000. But with domestic, it is literally $200 to $300. And when somebody gets beyond that, you find out that they're actually turning away customers, or they're not putting in rechecks, or they're not putting in tickets. As an owner, I don't understand why people would do that, but a lot of times the bonus is based off of that. So my bonus, and if you are interested in seeing it, Tim can get you, I call it a triangle bonus. And it's really based on car count, profits, and increased sales over last year. So that way they're focused on the right thing. As an owner, I don't get paid by ticket average. If I have a $400 ticket average and I'm only doing $50,000 in sales, that doesn't make me one more dime. I'd rather have a $200 ticket average and do $100,000 in sales. Well, you're never going to do those kind of sales if you're turning away the 80% tickets. So what we're doing is every time, if we don't incentivize managers properly, like when we sell 5-packs, we give a manager $5 on every 5-pack. So if he sells 2 or 3 5-packs a day, one, it turns out to be the most profitable part of the business because the gross profit's huge. But also the manager, he's $15, that pays for his lunch and his gas for the day. So it's a way to incentivize your managers. How hard is it to sell 5 oil changes for $79.95? And especially if you deliver good service. So a bonus plan based on what you want as an owner is mission critical. If you want huge ticket average so you can go in a room and tell everybody my ticket average is $400, I would just ask you how that's working for you. But if you want to make real money, you want every car put into your system. That's why I got into this business to begin with, because I got to know the customer. I got to keep their name. I know their phone number. I know what kind of car. I don't get any of that if I don't put it into my system. It's just insane. So I didn't get to cover that in detail, but we have it. I'm happy to share it with you guys. Speed sells. I think that's the most critical, is that don't misunderstand. When you now hear a customer come in and say, how long for an oil change, remember, oh, that's a whale. That's not a bottom feeder. That's not a catfish. That's a whale. That's your customer that's going to be with you forever if you can get them in. So that's never profile a customer based on that. You want the opposite. The person who's upset or that's short with you or that's rude, that's in a hurry, those are your great customers. Those are the ones that are going to make you a fortune in the future. Critical process is phone skills. You know, we talked a little bit about that. When we talk on the phone, when somebody says, how long for an oil change, we always say, is now a good time to bring in your vehicle? The reason for that is we know that a customer, not every customer is going to say yes. They're not expecting that answer. So they're going to give you, no, I can't right now, but I'll bring it in at 2. Okay, great. Let me go ahead and get your last name. The only good phone skills is one where you get the customer's name and you get an appointment, whether it's, and even if they say they'll come right in, let's go ahead and get their name, get their phone number, and the type of car. They're more likely to come in, and if they don't come in, we can call them back. It's just common sense. And then we talked about direct mail versus marriage mail, where the direct mail, at least the non-coupon shoppers are going to see your ad. In marriage mail, it's buried into a bunch of other coupons. But if you're going to do that, then go towards a low-end customer and have the cheapest oil change. The one thing I didn't tell you on a direct mail piece, what I do on purpose, just so you know how I charge $19.95 on my oil changes in most markets. Some are $29.95. But I base that on where Firestone or Goodyear is. I look at the national brands and go, okay, if they're at $17.95, I want to be $2 higher. And the reason why I want to be $2 higher is because if somebody's going to make a difference, so if somebody's going to leave me for $2, then I know that I'm culling out kind of the low end of the market. And don't misjudge me. I put an oil change on every ad that I do, and my oil change is usually $19.95. It's not the cheapest in town, but it's way less expensive than some people. But it's always, the reason why I do it, it's always about $2 higher than the guys who are doing the 1695s or the 17. And I do that just so that I don't get the very, very low end. I've got a customer. If you get lower than that, now some markets can be $15.95. It depends on your market. Some markets are $29.95. You'll know based on your response and how the customer's coming in. So, but don't ever, don't misunderstand me on the oil change. You always want to have one of those. The 80-20 rule is don't fight the spread, make the pie bigger. So don't try to cull out people that are coming in for small items. Make the pie bigger, because the 80% that you have this month are going to be part of the 20% that you have in the future, those 20% big tickets that are paying 85 or that are 85% of the sales.
And guys, we have a couple of minutes left. I'm going to get to a couple of quick questions. One of the questions that came in, Greg, it says, you mentioned not getting rid of bottom feeders. How do you handle the customers that come in only for oil changes, and any gotta-haves that are found the customer has some other shop or backyard mechanic address?
Well, those are called practice for us. So we still go through the same process with them, but if we never assume just because somebody hasn't bought from us, and we have this experience all the time where a new manager will take over a store and the employees will say, oh, that customer doesn't buy anything, and they end up buying. And they end up buying because we stopped asking. So you want to still go through the whole process, but just remember, that's a very small percentage of the overall number of cars coming in the door. So don't get stressed out about it. Try to sell them a 5-pack. If they're going to come in for that, at least they can spend $79 with you today. But don't get hung up on the handful of people that come in. We have them too. I only want the oil change. I mean, if you want to get your ass kicked, I'm telling you, I did Groupons one time. That was the ugliest deal I ever did in my life. I've done it once, and I would never do it. That's coupons on steroids right there. So, but you just have to deal with that. That's not going to interrupt my day.
Good. Another question comes in from a Meineke. It says, Meineke has marketed nothing but cheap oil changes, and we get these customers that only want cheap service, and they do not come back no matter what we do. Can we start informing folks that Meineke does more than cheap oil services?
Well, Meineke does, and I will tell you, Meineke has come a long ways in just this last year in doing direct mail, providing more value. I don't think it gets fixed overnight. I think a lot of it is a training issue there where I will tell you, in stores that I know out there, Meineke's, when the training is done right, the sales instantly go up. And so I wouldn't point the finger at Meineke Corporate. They're just competing with all the other national brands that are out there. And as they're learning, whether they learn or Midas or Firestone, whatever, and sometimes it's real hard because they're in every market in the United States. So, the guy in Louisiana may go, gosh, you guys are outrageous at a $17 oil change, but guys in California are saying you're out of your mind to charge a $17 oil change. So I think they're getting more into regional advertising and less of the national advertising that they were doing. So I think that Meineke's going in the right direction.
Good question. Okay, another question comes in. We got about 1 or 2 more minutes, guys. So if you have some questions, now's the time to bring them. If a customer brings you in that Firestone oil change coupon, would you match the price?
Of course I will. I don't want that customer to go anywhere else. We had a Goodyear store open up one time, and not far from us. Now, I will tell you, I was the largest independent chain of Goodyears in the state of Texas back in the 90s. We had a store in Atlanta that had a Goodyear open, and the customers didn't really pay any attention if it was us or Goodyear. So they'd come in and say, yeah, I got this coupon. Well, we just take it. We didn't go, oh, that's Goodyear's. Well, we just took it and took care of them, and they just kept coming back. So if somebody brings in a competitor's coupon, consider that a compliment and tell them, but try to sell them a 5-pack. Let them know, oh, we do a lot better service here. One of the things that we'll do is we're going to give you this 9-point inspection, or we'll do a visual inspection for free. So then you find the one gotta have. So if you find the one gotta have, you still take them through the same system.
Great. We'll have time for just a really quick question. We got a lot of people on board on here. Real quick question came in. Do you track closing ratios on your service riders? And if so, what is a good benchmark?
I don't, and I would, again, caution that, and here's why. We track, now here's the way I pay my managers. I think this is more important to know. If a manager that I hire, let's say, and this is just made up, let's say he's making $50,000 a year, he has to sell 85% of his salary each month to work for me. Now, that doesn't mean if he has one bad month or he's, I'm looking at really the trailing 3 months. So I don't want to get hung up on ratios, because what will happen is you'll have the same problem. A customer comes in for an oil change and they don't want to buy something, so then the manager doesn't put it in the system. He'll find a way. They always find a way around the system. I want car count, because I can look at the individual tickets. When I go into a store, I'll audit what we call a bag, and that's the day's business. I want to go through individual tickets and ask about the tickets. And there's several things that we look at. How long did it take? Well, we put time stamps. We know what time the customer came in. We know what time they pitched the gotta have. So if you see that, oh, wow, this person ran 15, 16 minutes on gotta haves, and he had a bad sales day, well, before I get mad, I want to understand what happened. Well, maybe another manager called in sick. Something happened. If not, it's an educational moment. I'll tell you, managers want to do good if you give them the tools and if you recognize good behavior. But if you focus on the bad behavior, it's kind of like that ticket average. Yeah, you'll have a $400 ticket average. You'll go broke, but you'll have a $400 ticket average. Great question.
All right, last question, guys, and then we'll have to wrap it up. I will tell you that if you don't get your question in, you can email us at info@mudlick.com, info, I-N-F-O, @mudlick, M-U-D-L-I-C-K.com, and we'll be happy to answer your questions as fast as we can. Last question. This is a great way to end it too, Greg. In general, what are the best lost leaders a repair shop should use to increase traffic?
Well, always number one is going to be an oil change, just because more people need an oil change. I like to do an oil change, and then I like to have a tiered pricing. So it may be $25 off 100, $50 off 250, and it may be $75 or $100 off of 750. And then I like a coupon that may be a check engine light, or it may be a free air conditioning check, something. You're not going to get a lot of those, but it just shows the customer out there that you do more than oil changes. So I don't like to do an oil change by itself. I like something else so that a customer glances and say, oh, wow, that's a check engine light. I didn't know they did that. So, but great question, but the oil changes is really the last frontier for us, which is, and those are getting harder and harder. And just remember, the national chains out there, they're dying for these oil changes, because they know that that's, if they can get you in an oil change, they can keep you. They can sell you tires. So if you don't say yes to these customers, the national chains have figured it out. Especially the tire companies, the Tires Pluses, the Firestones, and guys, they're going to go after those cars. So make sure that you have an oil change. And because you're a little bit higher than them, let the Firestones or Tires Pluses get bogged down with the very low-end customers, and you just deliver great service with your customers.
Well, great. Well, Greg, I want to thank you for taking the time out of your schedule to come talk with us today. It's been a pleasure getting to know this information. I think everybody realizes the passion, guys. If you don't understand, this, had a lot of success in the industry. Greg's been in it for almost 25 years. These are real, true strategies that work. Some of the best shops in the country, which Greg's are included, use this on a day-to-day basis. It's the little things that make the big difference. Would you agree, Greg?
Yes, it does. And I really enjoy doing these, and I really, really hope that it helps some guys out there. The key is to try to implement today, tomorrow, get right after it. So I've always enjoyed these, and I enjoy my time with you, Tim, so thank you very much.
Well, guys, at the end, I'll let you know that this call and this webinar are recorded. They will be placed on our website. I would encourage you guys to go to www.mudlickmail, www.mudlickmail.com. That's www.mudlickmail.com. Go to the industry tab, go to automotive repair, and from there down to the Automotive Learning Center. There are great webinars, videos, scripts on how to sell, job descriptions, bonus plans, Greg's budget, things that every owner needs to know about. Like Greg mentioned, many owners around the country use our Learning Center as a tool for their new people to teach phone skills, selling, how to handle objections. So again, thank you guys so much. I appreciate your time. Look for our next webinar email to come out here shortly. We enjoyed having you on. And again, if you have additional questions, please send me an email at info@mudlick.com. Thanks a bunch, guys, and have a profitable rest of the week. Take care.